ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in your life when everything looks the same on the outside, but you know something shifted on the inside. You're walking through the same hallways, clocking into the same job, answering the same phone calls, but you're not the same. Something cracked open and you can't explain it to anyone without sounding crazy. You start crying for no reason, or maybe you're laughing in places where you used to feel small. That's not just healing, sis, that's holy. You see, people think visitations from God are these loud, dramatic moments, burning bushes, parted seas, thunderclaps, and angel wings. But what if I told you his visit can feel like silence finally becoming peace? Like the weight of guilt sliding off your shoulders after years of carrying shame like it was part of your name. Sometimes the first sign he's been in the room is when the war inside you stops making so much noise. You used to wrestle with your thoughts. Am I enough? Will I ever be loved? Is there still time for me? You wore anxiety like armor because you thought you had to fight your way through everything. But then one morning you woke up and you weren't fighting. You didn't have the answers, but you had peace. You weren't pretending to be okay. You actually were okay. That's not therapy alone. It's just a new journal or another podcast episode. That's heaven brushing up against your broken places and whispering, I was always here. Sometimes the visit isn't in the miracle, it's in the stillness. You start to crave solitude, not because you're avoiding the world, but because your spirit is full and you need space to let it echo. You cancel plans that don't feed your peace. You start walking, talking, living different. And people notice. They say you've changed. They say you're acting brand new. And you smile because they don't know you are. You're not the same. You've been touched, visited, marked, and you didn't even need a church for it to happen. Maybe it came in the midnight hour when you were curled up on the floor, out of prayers, out of hope, and somehow still breathing. You didn't hear a voice, but you felt something, a knowing, a nudge, a warmth. You sat there, tears streaming down your face, and for the first time in a long time, you felt like you weren't alone. You weren't abandoned. You were held, you were known. That's what presence feels like. It doesn't always arrive in thunder. Sometimes it sneaks in like a whisper and wraps around your soul like comfort. Do you ever look back at your life and wonder how you survived some seasons? How you kept showing up with a broken heart and still smiled for your kids? How you walked through betrayal and didn't let it close your heart permanently? How you watched your dreams collapse and still had the courage to build again? That wasn't just you. That was evidence. That was favor. That was divine. There's something sacred about the seasons that were supposed to destroy you, but ended up redefining you. When the tears watered your strength, when the heartbreak made you soft in the right ways, when the no's protected you from lesser things, when the detour turned out to be destiny in disguise.
You thought you were being punished, but you were being positioned. He'll visit you in ways you don't recognize at first, through rejection, through loss, through uncomfortable change. He'll strip you down to nothing, not to shame you, but to show you who you really are without all the layers you thought were necessary to be loved. You start realizing you don't need to perform to be worthy. You don't need validation to be anointed. When your appetite changes, that's a sign. When gossip no longer entertains you, when bitterness starts to taste like poison, when peace matters more than being right, when you start choosing healing even when hurt feels more familiar, that's transformation, baby, not recitation. And it's not just for preachers. Not just for people who grew up in church or who know all the scriptures. He visits the girl who doubts. He visits the one who feels disqualified. He visits the woman who thought her story disqualified her from purpose. He doesn't wait for you to be perfect. He shows up in the mess, right in the middle of your insecurity, in the thick of your confusion. He walks through the wreckage like it's his favorite place to rebuild. You'll know he's been near when you start forgiving people who never apologize, when you start setting boundaries without guilt, when you start believing again, believing in yourself, in love, in joy, in a future that doesn't mirror your past. There's a courage that comes after the visit. You stop hiding, you stop shrinking, you start walking like someone who's been called. Even if you don't have all the details yet, even if you're still healing, even if you're still limping a little, you show up anyway. You'll know he visited you when your vision returns. You see possibilities again. You look at what you have left and realize it's enough. You stop obsessing over what you lost and start preparing for what's coming. You get a little bolder with your prayers. You start dreaming again. You walk into rooms with authority, not arrogance, because you know who sent you. And the thing is, people around you might not understand it. They'll wonder where your glow is coming from. They'll try to attach it to something external, a new job, a relationship, a glow up. But what they don't know is that it's deeper than that. You got visited, you were poured into, you were kissed by grace. You'll know he visited when you stop chasing things that were never meant for you, when your spirit becomes allergic to chaos, when your intuition sharpens, when you can walk away from what once controlled you, not because you're bitter, but because you're better. You'll know because you no longer need permission to become who you were always meant to be.